For once, some good news regarding Brexit, and specifically, of course, around the Northern Ireland Protocol. Now, I say good news in quotation marks because at the end of the day, as we've said, the protocol that has sort of been agreed is actually quite a big benefit to, of course, businesses in Northern Ireland, as we've seen throughout certainly a number of years. Northern Ireland businesses, compared to their UK counterparts, are doing far, far better. And of course, if you take Northern Ireland as a region and you take out London out of the equation, it is actually the best performing region out of all of the UK. So you have to ask why this is the case. And of course, the answer is it's still in the single market and customs union because there was always a big, massive economic advantage to remaining in the single market and customs union. But as we've said, the current protocol that was very hurriedly agreed because of Boris Johnson's desperation to try and get Brexit done, harried by his own Brexiteers in his party just to accomplish that goal as well, has resulted in a deal that was, well, far from perfect. But as we've said before, this needed bits and pieces to be negotiated. All that was wrong with it wasn't, perfect. It was like, the gears was slightly meshing. They were turning. They only just needed a little bit more adjustment, and they would have fitted together perfectly. And that is what we needed to happen. The government needed to sit down and negotiate these tiny bits of very technical detail that needed to be sorted out. And we saw under Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, up until Rishi Sunak, there was just this refusal to even acknowledge that there was a reason to sort of sit down and negotiate to sort these issues out. But of course, as we always said, to the Brexiteers, any negotiation is seen as capitulation to the EU. So even though today what is being hailed as a protocol breakthrough, especially in and regards to data sharing, is what they've certainly agreed upon at the moment, there are hundreds more of very similar technical type details to be agreed. But the news, of course, about this sort of breakthrough is not what we want to talk about today. What I want to talk about is the fallout potentially that this is going to create. And there are two very groups in Parliament, in and around sort of the UK politics, that are going to be very, very, very upset that Rishi Sunak has done this deal with the EU. And of course, it's the usual suspects. It's the Brexiteers, and of course, it's the DUP. They aren't very happy that this deal has been done. So before we go into the two reasons why they're going to be incredibly upset about this deal coming through, please do remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, do remember to ring the bell as well so you get notifications of when we drop a new video or when we go live. And of course, down below, there is a link to my Patreon page and our foundation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can, buy me coffee. And of course, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club as well. And remember, if you are a member of the Patreon page or the Pony Club, there is very much slowly building now a very big library of videos that I have made expressly just for you guys. And like I say, it's getting quite large, to be honest. So like I say, lots of you do enjoy that, and I know that you do sort of enjoy the topics that we do on there. So I'm very happy, and like I say, I am continuing to do those videos for you guys. So it's like a once a week thing, and like I say, I've been doing this since last year now. So yeah, there's a fair bit of content for you to sort of enjoy. And to be honest, certainly the price it's pretty good value for money, to be honest. So before we go into that, like I say, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel in that way. Even if you do, just hit the like and share button. It helps out the channel massively. So what are the two groups? As we mentioned, we've got the Brexiteers on one side, the DUP on the other. The DUP, to be honest, we'll start off with. They're the easiest ones about this. Right from the word go, they hate with a passion the Northern Ireland Protocol. Why? Because it leaves them in the EU. To them, they now feel like they have been cut off from the rest of the UK. Even though technically they haven't, it's just a border in the Irish Sea. But to them, of course, it is something they cannot countenance. And still, at the moment, in Stormont, there is no power share agreement because they have thrown their toys out of the pram and refused that unless that deal goes, there is no power sharing. There is no government in Northern Ireland as far as they are concerned. But as we said, if you get rid of that land border, which is their stated aim and their goal, if you get rid of that sea border, where do you put the border? You know, it's back to square one. And as we always said, there was always going to be this problem in around Northern Ireland, and it's not just Northern Ireland as well. I'm look at the mess that Gibraltar is in at the moment as well. If you want some even more good examples of chaos being caused, because no one has done anything talking about the chaos that is going on in Gibraltar, but that's another video for another time. And of course, this brings us round to the Brexiteers. Of course, they have been trumpeting that they have all these Brexit benefits, and only if we do this will be absolutely amazing. But of course, their grand project is failing. It's crumbling around them. They promised big and they made some big promises, and those promises as we said at the time, were not going to be fulfilled. This is why we are seeing the whole Brexit regret set in the polls of people saying, yes, it was wrong to leave the EU, and even leavers changing their mind on Brexit itself when we've seen in the polls. And of course, that big revelation that a lot of leavers now feel like they were lied to when it came to this, especially in that YouGov poll. So that was quite an interesting revelation, and they are getting panicked about this because they've got two big pieces of legislation. The first one we've talked about quite a bit, of course, the EU reform and regulation bill, which aims to get rid of thousands of pieces of EU law. That potentially is going to get completely and absolutely torpedoed in the Lords. So they're worried about that bill. It's already been amended very, very much so by opposition parties trying to preserve a lot of regulations as much as they can. But even then, a lot of legal experts have said there is a ton of legislation still in sort of the UK statute books that isn't even mentioned or even talked about. And potentially, this could create massive black holes in UK laws that could cause huge problems, certainly. So that is one bill, but that is not the one that they are particularly worried about because they've got a second bill that they are desperately trying to put through. And of course, it is Liz Truss's Northern Ireland Protocol bill, the one that basically allows them to just alter the protocol without having to consult the EU. Now, since Rishi Sunak has come in, he's sort of put that bill on ice. That bill has not moved a lot. There has been next to no movement. And this is because Sunak is at least seemingly honest enough to know that if he does proceed with that bill, that will cause huge problems. This is why we have seen the mood music change. This is why we've got this protocol breakthrough, as people are claiming it to be. But now we get into the consequences because you are going to have the Brexiteers kicking off over this, and you're going to have the DUP kicking off over this because they do not want this. Because if they see Sunak starting to do deals, not only does this completely torpedo the Northern Ireland Protocol bill that they want to get passed, but also this means that the UK will have to keep EU laws and legislations and regulations that they just want to get rid of. And of course, as we've said before, these people are free market fundamentalists. As far as they are concerned, there should be no regulation of the market whatsoever. That is really their sort of true ideology. But of course, they don't say that out loud. They more like to talk about how these laws and regulations are protectionist. And of course, as we talked about the chemical industry not too long ago, they don't really talk about the regulations they want to get rid of. As we discussed in that video. So yeah, the consequences, I think, of this are certainly going to be played out in the next couple of days. But I tell you now, certainly the Brexiteers and the DUP are not going to be happy with about this. And even though this is a sort of moment for, shall we say, sensibility and pragmatism, raising over the completely irrationalism and fantasy of the Brexiteers, they're going to be upset about this. They're going to be very, very upset. So expect certainly within the next couple of days and weeks for them to be very angry about this, and there will be consequences of this. We've already warned about the fact just this coming week they've already prepared to say to Rishi Sunak to, hey, you need to start making progress on those Brexit bills, and especially that small boat. So certainly the Tory right is going to have a lot to say about this progress, because as we've said before, these guys consider any negotiation with the EU to be a form of capitulation. Like I say, you cannot please these Brexiteers one bit, even if this is a bit of pragmatic legislation that eases and makes the Northern Ireland Protocol a bit smoother and makes it work, because that's what it really needs. It needs people, the negotiators, to sit down and really start discussing these really highly technocratic bits of pieces to sort out. But it needs them to sit down around that table. And of course, as we've said, the Brexiteers, any negotiation, even around things like, this data sharing agreement deal that they've agreed, they see it as a form of capitulation. So, as always, guys, like I say, thank you very much for watching. Please remember to hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below, there are links to my Patreon page and a one-off link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee, and of course, the YouTube thank you button, and of course, the Pony Club down below as well. So, as always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and of course, we'll see you all next time.